in business. So I did a little bit more research, and I found out the founders of the company, tracked one of them at home, pretended to be a person working for Pacific Bell IT, and that I wanted to make improvements on the system, but I had no information. And the guy says, well, since we went out of business, do you want me to send you the design plans and the different protocols and everything? I could either FedEx it to you or I could fax it to you. What do you want? I said, sure, fax it to me. So then I had all the protocols and all the information of how to access SAS. And how SAS worked is they had remote RTPs, remote test points in every central office, and they had to use computer terminals in the test department at Pacific Bell, and it would talk to a concentrator. That concentrator would dial up to the RTP in each central office, and it would use a proprietary protocol, and it would give the test technician the ability to make calls from that number, to listen to the calls, to do a number of different test functions. So now I had the capability, like Eric had, of using SAS. So let's fast forward. This is kind of a lengthy story, but it's kind of interesting. So I started to get suspicious about Eric because every time we'd get together or talk on the phone, he'd start like asking me questions. Who do you associate with? Who do you talk to? What are other hackers doing? And to me, that was a big red flag and yellow flag. So I started wanting to look into, well, who is this guy? And at the time, the Public Utilities Commission did not tariff caller ID in California. But since I had switch access, I did. So I basically implemented caller ID in Los Angeles. I set up caller ID on a friend's telephone, and then at 3:30 in the morning, I called Eric's pager number to call his telephone number. He did, and we were able to ID the number, and then from there get the address information from the phone company. It turned out this went to the Oakwood Apartments in Los Angeles, California. Then I decided, well, I got to find a little bit more about Eric. I just know his name. I call the Oakwood, I find out from the phone company the unit number he's living in. I call up the rental office, pretending to be Oakwood Corporate. I was able to get the whole rental application for the apartment where that phone terminated it. And to my surprise, there was no work information on this application. It only listed a mobile cell phone number. So I did some research and I found out that this mobile telephone number is listed in the name of Mike Martinez. And then to find out more information about this number, I needed to either be the customer and use social engineering, or I needed to get into the cellular phone company's network. At the time, I found a vulnerability in AirTouch Cellular, so I was able to get inside access to their internal network. What they gave me the ability to do is look at any calls that were originated from that cell phone or terminated. And one number that kept popping up over and over and over again was 310-477-6565, which is the headquarters of the Los Angeles FBI. So there I knew that there was a big problem for me because this guy was either an undercover agent or he was an informant. So why I'm telling you the story too is because I had to go through a lot of trouble to implement caller ID to get his telephone number. Now I'm going to show you how you can unmask private numbers, because if it happened today, he would have simply blocked his number. After I got the cell phone number, I pulled all the cell bills because I had access to all their internal systems. And then I started doing traffic analysis and found that this cell phone number was calling other phone numbers within government, other FBI cell phone numbers, and at the end of the analysis, I had every telephone number that belonged to the white-collar crime squad in Los Angeles. So what I started doing was having their numbers. I was able to do originating and terminating number searches, and then what I started doing was searching on Eric's number. Well, who's calling him within AirTouch Cellular? And who's calling Pacific Bell Security? And then I was able to find the case agent's cell phone number because he was calling Eric, he was calling Pacific Bell Security, he was calling different numbers at the Bureau. So then, what I did is there was this device called the DDI. Is anybody familiar with it? A guy named Mark used to sell them in Milwaukee. And what the DDI device allowed you to do was monitor the forward and reverse control channel of a cell site and actually be able to see calls. Anybody remember the DDI device? Okay, maybe 2 or 3 hands. So at the time, I was working as a private investigator in Los Angeles, and I set up in my office a scanner that monitored the forward control channel of the cell site in Calabasas, California. So anytime any of those agents, if they registered their phone, drove into the area or through the area, it would alert, the PC would capture the data and it would alert me with a page. So on September 28th, 1992, I walk into the office 8 in the morning and I hear this weird faint beeping sound as I open the office door of the PI agency. Nobody else was there. And I'm like, listening, where's this beeping coming from? And it's coming from my office. Wait, it's coming from my PC. And I go to the PC and see that it caught one of the case agent's telephone number actually in my central office. I mean, in the cell site, right? So I knew that the agent was within 2 miles of where I was because that was the cell site's coverage. So what do I do? Well, I knew 2 things were happening. 1, I was under surveillance. Or 2, they were going to my address in Calabasas to get a description of the premises for a search warrant. I assumed the latter, a search warrant. So what did I do? I went to Winchell's Donuts and bought a big 24-pack of donuts. And I wrote on a sign on my refrigerator, for FBI, and I cleaned out my apartment. But I wasn't sure if it was really the Bureau, okay? No, I knew it was the Bureau. I wasn't sure if they were really going to search me at the time. So I was really unprepared. I waited the next day. Nobody knocked on the door. There was nothing happening. So the next day I got kind of lax, but I still kept the donuts in the refrigerator. And I went to bed. Around 5 in the morning, I hear somebody putting a key in my door. Actually, a key. I could hear the key go in, and it kind of woke me up. And somebody's like messing with the door. Immediately, I didn't think government. I was thinking, oh, somebody's trying to break into my apartment. So immediately, I jump out of bed. And at that time, I slept nude. Too much information. And I go, who is it? FBI, open up, open up. And I was like dazzled, right? It was like 5:30 in the morning, and I open up the door, and I'm facing a female FBI agent right there. And the nude. A little bit embarrassing, but oh well. So in any case, once that happened, I knew that the government was definitely looking into my activities. So what I decided to do was use SAS, which I never really used before, and monitor the informant. So now that I had Eric's telephone numbers that were in his apartment because I got them through the phone company, I then used SAS to monitor those numbers for 1 day. And about after 1 hour, there's this call that comes in, and when the call comes in, you hear like it's, what they call it is a SAS shoe, is you call the frame, you put up a SAS shoe, and then you use that, use SAS to actually lay in wait for the call. The other way was using what they call a no-test trunk, which you could only use when the call's in progress. So the call came in, and I'm listening. I'm actually at the offices in this PI agency in Calabasas, and I hear Eric answer the phone, and it's a guy named Ken. And all of a sudden, they're discussing Mitnick and discussing a search warrant and evidence. And I'm listening to this call with all the full attention. And what I found out later, this was the case agent and the informant working together to try to collect evidence against me at the time. So at that time, that's when I knew that I was in serious trouble, and I needed to get out of town, so to speak. Unfortunately, my supervised release wasn't up for another month, meaning if I left, I'd be actually a fugitive from my probation. So what I did is myself and Louis DePayne, we conspired with an attorney, actually, to come up with a disinformation campaign, meaning Eric had no idea we knew he was an informant and working as a government agent, but in knowing this and knowing that he doesn't know that we know, we could feed him information that would go to the Bureau. And the whole purpose of that disinformation campaign was to get them to delay issuing an arrest warrant or arresting until my probation ended, because it ends by time. And what happened is we actually thought it had worked, because nobody came after me until 2 or 3 days after my supervised release expired. So why I'm telling you the story is to give you a little bit of history of my background of what actually happened with him. And now I'm going to give you I'm just going to divert to a quick demo because I know we're running out of time of how this tool would have been very useful to me back in those days if I was still an unethical hacker of unmasking caller ID. So I'm going to show you on a little video first and explain it, then I could demo it. So one moment. There's this provider, this SIP trunking provider called FlowRoute. I believe they're out of California. And I think because of a feature of their system, 1 second, it allows you to easily unmask caller ID. So I'll walk you through this video really quick. It's kind of slow, and I should have speeded it up, but I'm sorry. So I'm going to log into this FlowRoute account I created. And the first thing I'm going to do is just purchase a DID, and then I'll walk you through how this works. So at least you get something useful other than stories, something that you could actually use for your inbound calls. So I'm going to purchase a DID. I'm going to purchase an Idaho number. It's like $1.39. I just went through every step so you'd see what's going on. All right, so we're going to that's just going slow. I can't speed it up. I could stop it, of course. So I'm going to just go in and get the SIP configuration for Asterisk so I can do the registration, which is all common. This is all no-brainer stuff, but I wanted to put it in for people that don't know, and I can make the video available. So this is so when a call comes into the DID, it knows where to send the call. So here's my Asterisk VPS box. So I'm going to modify sip.conf. I did this by video rather than doing it live because things always mess up. So this is all common, really easy stuff in just setting up a DID. Then I'll get into how why this works. And why this actually works is this particular SIP trunking provider is like enterprise class. So what happens is they're getting the ISUP information, and you're able to map the SIP headers to the ISUP information, so you're getting the caller ID information and you're getting the privacy bit. So a normal call, when a call comes in, here's a SIP header, you see the from number. This is my cellular phone number. Oops, let me back it up. One moment. Okay. You're getting the from number, okay, which is the number that I'm calling from, and the p-certed identity is basically a SIP header that contains the same information. Here the call is not blocked. This is a normal call coming in. So 1 second, we'll go to a block call. One moment. So if you look at, if you can look up here, you'll see here it's from anonymous because it's a block call. But since this particular provider is still getting the p-certed identity, it's still able to map to the ISUP information, you're actually getting the caller ID in the p-certed identity header, and then you're getting the privacy ID. And this means that the privacy bit is set. So all we want to do is, if we're getting that information, what I do in this little 8-line asterisk script is basically look and see if anybody's calling me, is there a privacy ID set? If it is, it will prepend 900 to it. It will set that as the caller ID and then call me so I'll see the number. So there's the privacy ID. There's the p-certed identity. So we're going to check if the caller ID is private. If it isn't, we're just going to forward the call. If not, we're going to prepend the 900 to it. So I have to modify extensions.conf. And is everybody following this? It's pretty straightforward and easy, actually, if you've played with Asterisk before. So because there's an Asterisk bug, well, you'll see it in a moment. There's like a deadlock audio bug. There's like one line in there that will hopefully go away when they come out with the new release. Sorry, this is a little bit slow. This is because of the Asterisk bug in the first line. That takes care of that. Then what I'm doing is I'm just setting two variables. I'm setting the pcerted ID to the pcerted ID from the